Hi, I'm Art and welcome back. In this one, we're going to be talking about how to determine profitable areas to buy rental property. The first thing that we need to do is talk about the word profitability. In my opinion, it's a word that's thrown around way too much without regard to an investor's wants, needs, and desires. I talked about this in video 2 as it relates to determining if a rental property is a good deal for you. The answer here is pretty similar. Now let's take a look at the definition of profitability. Profitability, the degree to which a business or activity yields profit or financial gain. So given that, profitability is technically any dollar amount above and beyond expenses. So that can be any amount, $1, $100, or $10,000. What type of level of profitability are you looking for? What type of ROI are you looking for? These are the things that you need to be thinking about first. Once that's out of the way, how do you determine profitable areas? There are many methods and techniques, as you can imagine, but what I'm going to give you are a few steps that I use on a daily basis for myself as well as my clients. The first thing that we need to look at is the supply and demand in the areas that you're considering. You probably already know this, but supply and demand is the principle that the value of any good or service will rise as demand increases and supply decreases, and fall as demand decreases and supply increases. Real estate is no different. Supply and demand directly affect the market value of real estate. And with that, you need to know the market conditions of the areas that you're considering. Now, you can calculate the market conditions of the areas that you're thinking about by using what's called the absorption rate. Now, hear you now. What is an absorption rate? The absorption rate is an estimate of the rate at which particular classifications of property for sale or lease can be successfully marketed in a given area. To analyze the supply and demand, an absorption rate must be developed. Now, to calculate the absorption rate, you need to determine the number of competitive properties on the market in the areas that you're considering and divide that by the number of properties within that same area that have been selling each month. For example, if 4 homes are sold every month and there are 44 homes for sale, it will take 11 months to sell those homes currently for sale. If there are 80 homes for sale, the absorption rate will be 20 months or almost 2 years for all the homes to sell. This does not take into account the number of houses that will eventually come on the market in addition to those already for sale. How many months back should you look when calculating an absorption rate? It's recommended that you go back 3 months when making an average absorption rate for a particular area. Then you take that average or that absorption rate and you compare it to the previous month's absorption rate to spot the trend. Now we can determine the market condition of a given area. It's a seller's market condition if the absorption rate is 1 to 4 months. It's a normal market condition if the absorption rate is 5 to 6 months. And it's a buyer's market conditions if the absorption rate is 7+ months. So now that you know how to calculate the absorption rate for any given area, you can also determine the market condition for that same area. Powerful, isn't it? Now, know this. This is a hands-on tool and it will yield the best results provided that you use correct and current comps when you do your calculations. So now you know how to calculate absorption rates and figure out market conditions for any area that you want to look in. That's powerful enough right there. But there are other methods that are a lot easier that you can actually use in the beginning before you kind of dig in with the absorption rate and the market conditions. Let's take a look at those. Of course, being a realtor, realtors is at the top of my list. Realtors can be great resources because they're plugged into local rehabbers, developers, contractors, and aldermen. City Hall, Building and Planning Department. This is another great resource. Before any new development breaks ground, the development plans and drawings have to be filed and approved. Take some time and visit your building department or City Hall. Ask around about any new housing developments in the area that you're interested in. Also ask about commercial development. Commercial developments aren't planned and started without the infrastructure to support the businesses. The infrastructure includes housing for the neighboring community that will ultimately support the businesses. Neighborhood newspapers. They often are in the know when it comes to new developments in the neighborhood. Aldermen will often be featured in articles about groundbreaking ceremonies for new ventures and projects. Real estate meetups. We've talked about meetups before. They can be a good source of information. However, with that information comes competition from other investors for those profitable areas. The news. This one's a no-brainer. However, like real estate meetups, the information comes with competition from other investors for those same profitable areas. National Association of Home Builders, a great resource to get the pulse of the market around the country. Local home builders associations are great also. HUD, or Housing and Urban Development. Again, get the pulse of what's going on with HUD and around the country. Okay, in this one we talked about the basic definition of profitability and how to relate it to you. We also talked about supply and demand, the absorption rate, and how to use both of those to calculate market conditions for an area that you're considering. We also talked about 7 additional resources that you can use to help find profitable areas. So roll up your sleeves, be consistent, and you'll be surprised of the opportunities that are waiting for you out there. Well, that's a wrap for this one. In the next video, we'll be talking about data sources for comps and property information that you can use to start putting everything together and get moving. See you then.